How's it going, Apple Core? What are you guys up to? Today I'll be talking about deck construction, basic deck construction, the steps that I go through when constructing a deck. I'll be talking about what kind of deck you're playing, how to survive, how to kill your opponent, and a few other, key components that are really important to take into consideration when constructing a deck. And I'll also try and keep it more towards basic cards as well, to try and help you guys out who are newer to the game, who may not have as many legendaries. Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so yeah, I guess the best mid-range class, or one of the best mid-range classes, are either Rogue or Druid. Those tend to be the most solid mid-range. They also have pretty good utility with their hero power for board control and removal. That's what really separates mid-range from the other combo decks, is being able to take board control and make favorable trades with your hero power. So Rogue, Druid, and also Mage is one of those as well. The other heroes don't really influence board control as much. The Priest heal is kind of retroactive. He can only heal after a creature has taken damage, where these are more proactive, the Rogue, the Druid, and the Mage, because they can deal direct damage to enemy minions without having to take damage on your hero, or without having to have a special card to do so. Priest can deal damage to other minions with hero power if he has something like Shadow Form or Alchemized Soul Priest, but it's combo reliant, meaning you need to actually have another card on the board already, or have drawn that card to be able to use that. So we're going to go with one of the best mid-range classes here, and we're going to go with yeah, we'll go with Rogue. Rogue is always solid. Okay, so let's take a look here. The first thing we want to look at is what kind of deck do you want to make? Do you want to make an aggro deck? Do you want to make a mid-range deck? Or do you want to make a control deck? And based on that answer, going into our first category, which is card draw mechanics, we can then determine how many you need. If you're running an aggro deck, you might need more card draw mechanics. If you're running a control deck, you might need less. It also depends if you're running a combo deck too, and how you plan on killing your opponent. If you're planning on running the Leroy Jenkins Shadow Step combo and dealing all that burst damage in one turn, then it's definitely more favorable to have a lot more card draw mechanics to guarantee that you do draw the combo to kill your opponent. That's why a lot of Miracle Rogue decks run this guy right here, the Cold Light Oracle. I'll just bring it up here so you guys can see it, where each player draws 2 cards, because it doesn't matter if your opponent draws 2 cards, because you also draw 2 cards, and it's more important for you to draw those cards than it is for them to draw those cards, because you're betting on them not running a combo deck, and with your combo deck, if you don't get the combo, you lose the game. So it is much more important for you to draw than them, and that's why each player drawing 2 cards, it doesn't matter what they get, you only care about you, and getting as many cards as possible to hit your combo and win the game. But anyways, let's just say we're running a mid-range deck, in which case we would want anywhere from 2 to 4 card draw mechanics, I would say. For a control deck, you would want 1 to 3, I would say. Mid-range, 2 to 4. Aggro, 4 to 6, unless you're a Warlock, of course, where your hero ability allows you to draw cards. If you're running a really extreme aggro deck, in my personal opinion, I prefer 4 to 6 card draw mechanics, because aggro decks tend to run out of steam, but it depends what other classes you're playing against, and so it's really in-depth. I'm going to do my best to cover it as quickly as possible. If your opponents are playing aggro decks on the ladder in Constructed, and you're facing nothing but hunters, for example, card draw mechanics are not going to do you much good, because they'll draw you more cards, which gives you more creatures, and you put more stuff on the board, and they unleash the hounds, and then you lose because you gave them all these, unleash the hounds creatures, buffed it up with Timberwolf, and now they got insane value and crush you. But if you're playing control decks, and they have no way to deal with all of these creatures, then drawing more cards, playing more minions faster is better. So it really just depends who you're playing against. You need to alter your deck based on that assumption. So if you're playing aggro decks, lower your card draw mechanics. If you're playing control decks, increase your card draw mechanics. And kind of, you need to always be changing your deck depending on the current metagame that's going on. That is, if you want to be extreme about it. Um, you know, there are some arguments for keeping the same deck, though, and it's really hard to say too because I hit Legends in Season 2 by sticking with the same deck, committing to it for 21 hours straight, and you know, getting Legends. No matter what happened, I stayed with the same deck, made no changes, stuck with it, committed, and did it. So it really just depends. You know, if you need to make sure that you're at a very advanced level to make changes to your deck and always be changing. Yeah, so I guess that's what I would say. If you're a newer player, you should not be making changes to your deck as frequently, and I would highly recommend, you know, only constructing your own personal decks once you've gotten better. Until then, I would highly recommend cloning and copying other high-ranked players' decks and using them to kind of reading their reasoning why they made their decks the way they are, so that you can get to where you need to go. But anyways, card draw mechanics. Let's say we're running mid-range. Let's get 2 to 4. Let's throw them in there. So my favorite card draw mechanics are Loot Hoarder. The 2 damage almost always allows it to trade favorably, even though it is weak to hero powers, you know, like Rogue, Mage, Druid. But at the same time, it does give you momentum, and it allows them to react to you. So if you play a Loot Hoarder, and they use hero power to take out your Loot Hoarder, you have now cycled through cards, and they have still not played anything on the board, which means there's an empty board, they've taken 2 damage, and now it's your turn. If it's a Druid or a Rogue, anyways. A Mage would just ping it. They would not take the damage, but you would still draw a card, and you have your turn now, on turn 3, or turn 2 if you coined it out, and they have still played nothing. So you have a chance, or you have the opportunity to now play a card and initiate the sequence of trading that goes on. And whoever initiates that sequence is usually ahead. Something to keep in mind. So even if they can remove it, it still gives you tempo. That's the important thing. So okay, we'll go with the 2 Loot Hoarders. Just in case you don't have Nat Pagle because he is a legendary, we'll go with more basic cards. So we'll throw in like an Acolyte of Pain. Also, something to keep in mind, how much synergy do you have with spell power? One of the best card draw mechanics in the game is Azure Drake. It's only a rare, it's not really that hard to craft, it's pretty cheap. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and throw in 1 Azure Drake. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 card draw mechanics. I would say we're good for a nice mid-range deck. I think 4 card draw mechanics is sufficient. My personal opinion, I like to err on the side of, you know, 4 to 6. But this is certainly good enough to get you by. Yeah, so okay, we have the card draw mechanics established. So now we have 2 remaining categories to go down, which is how to survive and how to kill your opponent. So how to survive, some things we need to consider is taunt and taunt activation. If you're running into a lot of aggro decks on the ladder, you need to put in more taunt in your deck. If you're running into more control decks on the ladder, you need to put less taunt in your deck. Yeah, basically that's pretty much it. I'm not sure also why the music stopped here, but anyways, yeah, more or less taunts depending on what you're playing on the ladder. However, until you're more experienced and until you know what you should be changing in your deck, I would highly recommend going with you know, just a moderate amount of taunt, kind of finding a middle ground that you can stick with, that you can create, and kind of stay right there, and just don't adjust it. Just keep playing that all the way through, so that no matter what you face, you'll be adequately prepared at least. So let's see. Let's go ahead and throw in one of the best basic taunt creatures in the game, which is Sen'jin Shieldmaster. And we'll just throw in... you know what? He's so good, and he's a basic card. You know, this is especially a guide for people who are newer to the game. We'll throw in 2 Sen'jin Shieldmasters. Not only does this give you a sufficient amount of basic taunt if you're playing against other mid-range decks, also, it's really good card. The 5 health on turn 4, especially if you coin out Ascension, is really awkward. Pallies can't kill it with True Silver Champion. Rogues have to use something like Backstab and Deadly Poison to kill it. It almost always trades favorably 2 for 1, which is why Sen'jin is so good. Also, if you're going first, you have 4 mana, you play Sen'jin. Let's say you're playing a warrior with an Arcanite Reaper. He then has 4 mana, and he can't play the Arcanite Reaper unless he's saved coin all the way till turn 4, which is extremely rare. Which means a Fiery War Axe cannot kill this engine, so he has to use that and a creature and take 3 damage. So yeah, we've covered our taunt, although, you know what, Defender of Argus is still good even after the nerf. And it is only a rare card, it's extremely high value still. So we're going to throw in 2 Defender of Argus as well for more taunt activation. So now with 2 taunt activators, assuming you have something on the board, and 2 basic taunts, this gives you enough survival to get through. Okay, so the next question, how to kill your opponent? What's your plan? Do you want to run a combo deck with Leroy Jenkins' Shadow Step? Do you want to do all that burst damage in one turn and make it a miracle style deck? If so, we need to go back to the card draw mechanics and we need to add in more to make sure you draw the combo. Do you want to kill your opponent with just, you know, steady, solid board control and whittle them down with creatures by making favorable trades and kind of keep control the entire game, which Rogue is an excellent class to do that with. Then you're going to want to go with, you're going to want to go with more creature-based damage, things like Dark Iron Dwarf to allow for favorable trades by giving +2 damage for that turn to a minion that's already on the board. Because generally, as a rogue, you will have board control. You will have something on the board to buff with Dark Iron, or something like Abusive Sergeant too. So let's say we want to do the board control style. So we'll throw in the 2 Dark Iron Dwarves for favorable trading, and we'll go over here as well, and we'll throw in 1 Abusive Sergeant for a little bit of utility. The +2 damage is always good for favorable trading. Whenever you're focused on a board control style, you want plus damage mechanics, taunt activation mechanics, even something like Elven Archer is a consideration in a board control deck. Argent Squire is definitely one of those considerations, and we will in fact put Argent Squire in there because we are going with a board control creature-oriented deck, which means that Argent Squire is very useful with Defender of Argus for activation with taunt. The Divine Shield and taunt means 2 sources of damage are needed to get through the Divine Shield first and then kill the Argent Squire. Also, at the same time, Argent Squire can be buffed with Abusive Sergeant and can kill a 3 health minion on turn 2, you know, without losing the Argent Squire. And you still have something on the board, it only takes the Divine Shield, assuming your opponent hasn't taken it off yet. So we have 3 favorable trading mechanics, the 2 Dark Iron Dwarfs and 1 Abusive Sergeant. And one thing I always do too is take a look at my mana curve here. Every I would say 8 to 10 cards, I usually take a look at my curve by scrolling over the Rogue box up here at the top, or the Hero box. And you can see the curve. It looks like we're really heavy on 4 drops right now, so we'll probably avoid 4 drops. And let's try and fill it in the 3 drop slot right now. It's always nice, if you're running a board control style deck, you want a nice, smooth bell curve when running a control deck. An aggro deck generally tends to spike on either turn 2 or turn 3, and then control decks usually ramp up slowly and spike in the late game and the really early game with removal spells, like for a warrior, you know, things like Inner Rage, Whirlwind Cleave, and then that's the early spike, and then in the late game they spike with Ysera, excuse me, Ragnaros, Cairn, and all that good stuff. So it's generally an inverse bell curve for a control deck, a regular bell curve for a mid-range deck, and usually an earlier shifted curve for an aggro deck. That's something to keep in mind for how to shape your deck. Yeah, and so let's go ahead and see here. We're going to want to go for the 3 drops. We're going to want creatures that stay on the board, like Harvest Golem. It's so good, even after it dies, there's a 2/1 damage golem that respawns. This 2/1 damage golem that respawns can then be used with Dark Iron Dwarf and with Abusive Sergeant to make favorable trades the following turn. So we will throw in 2 Harvest Golems as well. Yeah, and so we look at our deck now. We have 14 cards. Another thing that you'll notice I'm doing is I'm only adding creatures at this point. Only adding creatures. So this is our solid creature base. Once I get up to about the 15 card mark, just about halfway through, that's when I start thinking about the crucial key spells that I need from that hero. So let's start doing that. So let's go over to the Rogue. Backstab is one of the most crucial spells in the game, so I will pick that. Also, you'll notice that I picked only neutral cards first. I picked almost no rogue cards. I started out with all neutral cards. That way, once I have the core components I need from the neutral zone, I can then come into the fundamental mechanics that you must have with your class. So you could essentially, if we remove the backstab right now, you could take this mixture of creatures into any deck and have a solid foundation for starting a good, well-rounded deck. You could take these 14 cards that I added and have sufficient card draw mechanics, sufficient, mid-range tempo and favorable trading, and sufficient taunt activation to kind of keep you alive in any deck if you wanted to take these 14 cards right here. And I would even recommend pausing the video at this point if you're one of those people and taking these 14 cards and basically copy pastorinoing them over. Shout out to Eddie Pastorino. Anyways, so now that we've completed these 14, we're going to do the essential rogue cards. So the 2 backstabs are absolutely essential in a rogue deck. We'll switch to all. We're not running a combo deck, so we don't want things like Cold Blood or Shadow Step. We do want Deadly Poison, however. It's favorable trading. The +2 damage is so essential for that early board control, allowing your hero to take the damage so that you can keep your creatures on the board longer. Because remember, you want creatures on the board. You don't mind losing a little bit of health at the beginning. Alright, Eviscerate. Another crucial key removal card that you must have as a rogue. At least 1 Blade Flurry. You must have at least 1 Blade Flurry, in my opinion, in a rogue deck. Always, no matter what kind of rogue deck you're playing, you must always have 1 Blade Flurry. I know Blizzard says they don't want everyone to have to run 1 card, but it's the same thing as Blade Flurry, Unleash the Hounds, Consecrate, Swipe, Starfall. All those AoE removal spells, you have to have them in every single deck. It's a comeback mechanic so that if you do lose board control at any point, Blade Flurry gives you an opportunity, if you have something like Deadly Poison, to clear the board, to potentially clear the board and bring yourself back into the game and reset and wipe it. It's so crucial, otherwise you'll find that you'll fall behind and you'll have no way to come back, and you'll just lose the game. Blade Flurry gives you an opportunity to reset and essentially start playing all over again and start the tempo battle with a little bit more mana. And once you do that, that's why card draw mechanics are key, because once you do have those reset mechanics, like Equality, Consecrate from a Pally, whoever has drawn more cards at that point will most likely win the game. If there's an empty board on turn 10, you guys have been battling the entire time, let's say you both have 15 health by now, but it's a completely clear board. Let's say you have 5 cards in hand, he has 2 cards in hand. Let's say 4 of your cards are creatures, and on the following turn you have 10 mana, you drop all 4 creatures, and he has 1 spell and 1 creature. What's he gonna do, right? What is he gonna do? He's going to lose. He's used his board wipe. You have a card advantage at that point. You're gonna play all of your creatures, you're gonna be able to overwhelm him and trade favorably however you like, and you're gonna win the game. And that's how it works. So that's why card draw mechanics are so crucial. Okay, so we have 21 out of 30 cards. Let's go to the other essential cards. Defias Ringleader is not an essential card. He can be really good if you're running a lot of low-cost creatures and backstab, which we are. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2, 4, 6 1-drops or less. Out of a 30-card deck, that's 1/5 of the deck. So yeah, 20%. I think that's pretty good odds to be able to combo on turn 3 or earlier. So we will pick up 2 Defias Ringleaders as well. It's a really good tempo card. And the 2 creatures, once again, causes a problem for heroes that don't have a strong AoE removal. So yeah, SI7 is a crucial component of Rogue, so we will pick that. Especially if you have coin, you can coin out SI7 on turn 2, clear the board. It's so good for tempo. Let's see here. We don't necessarily want any of these. They're not really key components at this point. None of these are key components. So now we're going to look at how to kill our opponents, and we're going to see what we have here. As far as favorable trading, one of the best favorable trading minions in the game is this guy right here, the Argent Commander. He's also a rare. Keep in mind this deck is more oriented to people who don't have legendaries, so we're going to throw in 2 Argent Commanders. The charge is so good, and Azure Drake is so popular that if you're going first against someone else, and they most likely will play an Azure Drake on turn 5. It's one of the most common plays in the game. Azure Drake, turn 5, bam, put a 4/4, draw a card, spell power. That means if you're going first, they have 5 mana, then you have 6, and you can play an Argent Commander and kill the Azure Drake for free. Basically just trade the Divine Shield for the Azure Drake. Now their board is cleared and you have a 4/2 on the board. Yeah, it's so insanely good. So anyways, what else do we want here? We already have 1, 2, 3, 4 taunt and taunt activation cards total. We might consider either adding more card draw mechanics. If we want to make this more of an aggro deck, we would add 1 more card draw mechanics and then some more charge minions. If we want to keep it mid-range, we might just add in some more mid-range creatures like the Chillwind Yeti. And I think we will in this case, because we are running a mid-range deck. And you know what? Yeah, Yeti is so good. The 5 health on turn 4 is the same thing as Sen'jin, like I was saying earlier. It doesn't die to a lot of stuff. And also, you know, depending on what kind of decks you're playing, let's see here. Let's take a look at our curve again. Looks like we're missing out on turn 3. We do have 1 card remaining. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 card draw mechanics. You know what? It might be in our best interest to throw in another card draw mechanic. And we're going to do it on turn 3. And you know what? Just so we make a nice bell curve. Well, not necessarily a bell curve, but it's going to look like kind of a step master, and then it's going to fall off to our late game in a mid-range rogue deck. We're actually going to go ahead and remove one of the scrubs. Sorry, 5 Ringleader, technically speaking. We're going to throw in a second Acolyte of Pain for another card draw mechanic. And then we're also going to throw in a second Azure Drake as well. So we're going to add in 2 more card draw mechanics. Like I was saying, once the board is cleared, whoever has the card draw mechanics wins, or whoever has more cards in their hand on an empty board late game is the one who wins. I always prefer to have more card draw mechanics. This is my ideal setup here. I have never actually designed this exact deck before. I have never designed, so this is completely new as far as this exact combination of cards. Yeah, and I think this is a really well-rounded deck, and hopefully that gave you guys some insight into exactly my thought process in crafting and building. This is a nice mid-range deck. It's based on creature damage and board control. Yeah, and like I was saying, if you're interested in making a combo deck with like Leroy Jenkins, things like that, to burst your opponent down, make sure you have more card draw mechanics. And you can remove things like, you know, Chillwind Yeti, which is, you know, it's more mid-range oriented, and Dark Iron Dwarf with favorable trading. You don't need that, you just need burst damage. And if you're doing a control deck, you would want the mid-range stuff, but you would want to remove some of the card draw mechanics and put in some more late game. So for instance, you might drop Acolyte of Pain and one of the Loot Hoarders, or one of the Defias Ringleaders, for like a Ragnaros and an Ysera. You also might drop the Dark Iron Dwarves for some early game removal spells. You might add in a second Blade Flurry if you're facing a lot of Murloc or Hunter decks. Things along those lines to consider, depending on what kind of deck you're playing and what kind of deck your opponents are playing. So yeah. Oh wow, I just realized my head was cut off for the entire video, but I can't go back and record it now, man. So anyways, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully that helped you gain some insight in how to craft your own deck. And yeah, I'm going to be appearing on NESL tonight, King of the Hill, if you guys are interested. So yeah, it's a show match against the person who won the invitational tournament. I received a personal invite as the local Hearthstone professional. And yeah, the winner will then play the current King of the Hill, Amaz, for a $500 show match. So it's going to be good stuff, man. Hopefully I will see you guys there on NESL Hearthstone on twitch.tv. There will not be any stream tonight because I am preparing for that. Yeah, I'll be posting that on Facebook and Twitter soon. But yeah, anyways, guys, hopefully if you enjoyed this video, you'll like and subscribe. And hope you enjoyed it. Hope this helped. And here we go. Yeah, there we go. Alright, I will see you guys soon. Thanks again for watching Apple Core, and peace out.